Have you ever noticed how perfectionism feels a lot like carrying a weight you can't put down? You tell yourself it's about high standards, about doing things right, about pushing yourself to be the best. But underneath that shiny label of excellence, there's something else, something heavier. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, believed that perfectionism often has very little to do with genuine excellence. In fact, he saw it as a mask, something we wear to hide from our own vulnerability and power. And today, I want to take you on a journey into that idea, because if Jung was right, then perfectionism isn't just a habit, it's a kind of prison, one that keeps us from living fully. Hook. First 30 seconds. What if perfectionism is not your superpower, but your cage? What if the very thing you think is making you stronger is actually keeping you small? By the end of this video, you might not look at doing things perfectly the same way again. Let's start with something very real. I once had a friend, let's call him Daniel, who spent 3 years writing a book. He obsessed over every sentence, every comma, and he told me something that stuck. I can't let anyone see it until it's perfect. 3 years later, that book still sat on his desk, unpublished, unread, unseen. He wasn't chasing excellence anymore. He was hiding from the world, and in that hiding, he lost time, opportunities, and most painfully, his own joy for writing. Jung would say Daniel was stuck in what he called the persona, the mask we show to the world. Perfectionism can be a kind of persona. We craft it carefully, so people see us as competent, flawless, admirable. But the danger is, the more time we spend maintaining the mask, the more disconnected we become from the deeper, truer parts of ourselves. Why perfectionism is fear in disguise. Jung's core insight was this: what we often call perfectionism is not about being perfect. It's about avoiding failure. It's fear dressed up as virtue. It's fear of being judged, fear of not being enough, fear of facing parts of ourselves we'd rather keep in the shadows. Think about it. If you're constantly revising, polishing, and holding back until something's ready, you're not actually trying to make it better. You're trying to make it bulletproof. But life doesn't work that way. There's no bulletproof. There's no way to show up in the world without some risk of criticism, rejection, or disappointment. And here's where Jung's philosophy hits hard. He believed that wholeness, not perfection, is the goal of life. Wholeness means integrating all parts of ourselves, even the messy, imperfect, uncomfortable ones. Perfectionism, on the other hand, is about cutting off anything that doesn't fit the ideal image. It's the opposite of integration. It's self-rejection in slow motion, the perfectionism paradox. Ironically, perfectionism often leads to worse results. Why? Because it keeps us from finishing things. It keeps us from experimenting, failing fast, and learning. Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." That's what perfectionism keeps us from doing. It keeps us from that terrifying but liberating acceptance. And here's the paradox. The moment you let go of being perfect is the moment you actually start producing better work. Why? Because you're no longer holding back. You're no longer creating for an imaginary panel of judges in your head. You're creating from a place of truth, and truth is magnetic. A metaphor, the garden and the fence. Imagine you're planting a garden, but instead of planting seeds and letting them grow, you spend months building the perfect fence around it. You measure every post, polish every panel, repaint whenever there's a scratch. The fence is flawless, but inside, there's nothing growing. That's perfectionism. The fence is the presentation, the thing you show the world, but the real magic, the real beauty comes from what grows inside, the messy, unpredictable, living work. And the longer you obsess over the fence, the less time you spend actually tending to the garden. Carl Jung's challenge to perfectionists. Jung's work often revolved around confronting the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny or hide. For perfectionists, The shadow often includes our fear of failure, our need for control, and our shame about not being good enough. Jung believed that growth happens when we face those shadows, not when we cover them up with a perfect exterior. If you're a perfectionist, Jung's challenge to you would be, can you let something exist in the world that is imperfect? Can you stand in front of people without the mask and let them see you as you are, flaws, mistakes, and all? Because that is where real power lives. 3 practical shifts to break free. Before we go deeper, let's make this concrete. If perfectionism has been running your life, here are 3 shifts you can start making today. Redefine success. Instead of asking, "Is this perfect?" ask, "Does this express what I truly mean?" Focus on authenticity over flawlessness. Set release deadlines. Don't give yourself infinite time to polish. Give your work a finish line and commit to sharing it, even if it feels incomplete. Practice small imperfections. Deliberately share something that's 80% done. Send an email with a tiny typo. Let yourself be seen as human on purpose. It's like exposure therapy for your fear of imperfection. A personal reflection. I'll be honest, even making this video is a test of my own perfectionism. I've rewritten parts, deleted sentences, thought about whether my voice will sound good enough. And then I remember, if I wait for perfect, this video will never reach you. The value is not in perfection, it's in connection. And connection only happens when we show up as we are, not as we wish to appear. The central message, Jung's philosophy, invites us to trade the pursuit of perfection for the pursuit of wholeness. Wholeness includes our failures, our awkwardness, our half-baked ideas. It means embracing the truth that we are a work in progress, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. When you drop the need to be perfect, you start to live from a different place. You take more risks. You create more freely, you connect more deeply, and you discover that the thing you were so afraid of, being seen in your imperfection, is actually the thing that makes you relatable, trustworthy, and inspiring to others. So where does that leave us? Perfectionism isn't about becoming flawless, it's about avoiding the discomfort of being seen as flawed. And that's the paradox. In trying to protect ourselves, we end up shrinking ourselves. Carl Jung's insight reminds us that the real task is not to polish every edge, but to integrate every part of who we are, especially the parts we'd rather hide. Because here's the truth, the people who have moved you most, inspired you most, were never perfect. They were alive. They showed up, sometimes unpolished, sometimes messy, but fully present. And that presence spoke louder than perfection ever could. Think about your own life. How many ideas, projects, or connections have you kept locked away because you thought they weren't ready? How many times have you delayed living because you were still working on yourself? What if readiness was never the point? You can start shifting today. First, notice when you stall because of fear of judgment. Second, release something into the world before you think it's ready, just once, to prove to yourself the sky won't fall. And third, replace "is this perfect" with "does this move me forward?" Perfection hides. Wholeness steps into the light, and the world doesn't need your flawless version. It needs your true one. You will always find ways to improve, but if you wait until you're done improving, you'll wait forever. The real victory is not in reaching some imaginary standard. It's in daring to be seen before you think you're ready. Because in the end, perfection is sterile, presence is alive, and the world is waiting for you to show up exactly as you are right now.